Hi there, VC. Mick back again, and welcome to another part of my 2024 rewind. And this time it's Australian reissues. Let's get it underway. Okay, first up we have Dumb and the Ugly with the Atmospherics of Metal. This is a Melbourne band that most prominently featured John Murphy, who, when he came back to Australia from stints in the UK, including with the Associates, joined with Dave Brown and Michael Sheridan to be part of Dumb and the Ugly. This was initially reissued CD only in the early 90s. And it's good to have this proto-jazz punk with a little touch of metal, I guess, back in print. Something I don't like about it, it's got the 30th anniversary edition down the bottom there. I actually think that should be saved for a hype sticker, not on some brilliant artwork for the LP. Anyway, it's good to have it on vinyl. Next up is something that was reissued or issued a couple of years back by Quivers, and it's a full cover of REM's, and people will recognise the track listing, Out of Time album. This was put out in approximately 2000, and then it went out of print real quick, and because this is a wanted indie pop band, and the prices started to go through the roof. Thankfully, it got reissued later this year, and we could all get a copy of it. They did release a fantastic album in 2024 that certainly was worthy, but didn't quite make my top 10 Australian albums because it was a really strong feel. But good to have this back in print, and good to have a recent cult classic reissued. Next up, we have something that's on the go-betweens family tree. And this is The Apartments with a Part. Now, this came out in December 2023, but didn't arrive on Australian shores until 2024. So it just scrapes in to the criteria. Peter Milton Walsh, who is really the Apartments, has had stints in the go-betweens, but most notably he's had a career in producing these fantastic pop albums that often were big in France, or big on the continent, but always contain some fantastic songs. Next one we have is These Immortal Souls. Now, this album was released in the early 90s. It did come out on vinyl, always hard to find, so most of us only have had a CD version. It's I'm Never Gonna Die Again, and the key people in the band is, you'll recognise Genevieve McGuckin, but Harry Howard, who's Roland as Howard's brother, but also epic soundtracks from Swell Map, so they certainly had a ongoing relationship. Nice to have this back in print from Mute Records. Next up we have Severed Heads, and this is their first record release, and I'll say album release because it was released as one side of a split album with the Rhythmic Chimics band, but it has been extended to 4 sides, which includes their next cassette release and other odds and sods from that period. If you like Throbbing Gristle and their 20 jazz funk era type incarnation, this is certainly for you. It's a little bit more weird than that, and there's samples and all kinds of radio interplay, but if you're thinking Dead Eyes Opened, which was a bit of a hit later on in the 80s, think again. This is certainly mutant disco. Next up we have a classic Australian band in Radio Birdman. And you're probably thinking, gee, what's this here? This is Living Eyes, which was their second LP. But the key thing is this is the 90s remix. So you've still got the classic lineup of Younger, Tech, Mazuak, Keeley, Hoyle and Gilbert. But it's been remixed, just give it a little bit more urgency, and I guess remove some early 80s chunk from it. And I tell you what, it works fantastically. So I'm really happy with the reissue on this, and it sounds great. Nice to see this 1990s CD only version make it onto vinyl. Next up we have the Trippets, who featured the enigmatic Dave McComb. This is a double LP expanded, remastered and remixed reissue of their classic lo-fi album In the Pines, which was recorded in a woolshed. Fans of the Triffid will be pleased to know that the original countrified version of Trick of Light is actually on this, and that was reorchestrated and saved up to go to the Calendar album. But yeah, fantastic version of this. The bad news for new fans is that you still probably need to buy the In the Pines original to hear that original mix. So, you know, for those of us who've been invested for a while, definitely basically a new release of some sort. But for those who are just getting into them, you do need to have that one as well. Okay, hitting the upper echelons now. And this one here is the HooDoo Gurus with Stone Age Romeos. And for me, this is all about the vinyl experience. This was an album released in 1983, and we get it now for its deluxe edition. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it, it comes in a picture disc, which doesn't sound particularly bad, but it's certainly not particularly good. For mine, the Japanese version of Stone Age Romeos is the definitive version. This band features James Baker, who was in The Scientists, and we have Dave Faulkner, who was in The Victims. We have Brad Shepard, who was in The Fun Things, and then we have Clyde Bramley, who played in a lot of bands around Sydney. The key aspect of this is you also get the Live and the Chevron live set, which comes in this Zoetrope vinyl. All nice, and I do appreciate the vinyl experience. I do wish this one here, though, was released on regular vinyl and not just the picture disc version. Okay, down to the top two. This is a monumental release. This is The Saints. It's I'm Stranded, their first album, which has been given a deluxe treatment. A classic album that everyone no doubt is aware of. So what we get is we get the classic 1977 debut, remastered vinyl for the first time in 40 years. We get the Paddington Town Hall and Live in London concerts on vinyl for the first time. We get a previously unreleased 1976 mix of One Stranded. This is that mix is actually circulated in collector circles for years, and it certainly, well, it was my grail. I'm so pleased to have it now, because I would have been looking at maybe, you know, close to $10,000 to get hold of that if I was going to do it. It's on audiophile vinyl. There's all the usual colour booklets and stickers and promo posters, and a fantastic price of in Australia for $150. So yeah, fantastic stuff from the Saints. The albums all come in, well, the Stranded comes in a redesigned cover. Fantastic box set. However, it didn't make number one, and this is my number one for the year. The Go-Betweens Anthology Volume 3. We've been waiting for this forever. What you get is you get 4 LPs, so you get the 3 studio albums from the group's Reformation, and you get a night mix, which is an unreleased live studio session recorded in Munich in 99. You get 4 CDs of hard to find demos, recordings, B-sides, general sketches, and a 112-page book, which sort of goes through the archival photos as you would expect. The box set itself was a little bit controversial in that the fan club edition came with a copy of Grant's book, and when that was initially released in Australia, that was retailing for $6.50, including postage from the Universal Music Group, which was quite an expensive undertaking for the 4 LPs and the 4 CDs and the book. Fortunately, Rough Trade offered the UK version, or a version, the standard UK version, which basically you get delivered to Australia for $400. Still not cheap, but certainly more affordable than what was being offered locally by Universal Music. The key thing here is there's a remix of Oceans Apart, their final album, and this time they've actually turned down the bass a bit and removed its general spikiness. For mine, the mix is not as good as it was originally, and I have a German version of that album, and it certainly sounds fine. So good to have the remix as a long-term fan. Kind of disappointed that the album didn't make it in a remastered version on the box set. Okay, that's my roundup of the best reissues of Australian acts for 2024. Okay, thank you.